Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
First of all, I want to say there is a fantastic video here on Board Game Geek that showcases the very detailed distinctions between the first edition and the second edition of Santa's Workshop. What I'm hoping to provide here is a quicker, shorter video of the two differences here. So I'm just going to highlight some differences, a very quick, concise, but if you're looking for an hour-long, very detailed explanation, I would actually go watch that video. It is very well done. First of all, you're going to see a difference in artwork. You're going to see, it's just my preference. I find this one to be warmer. That's kind of the thing I have. This is warmer. If you've played this one a lot, you might have some nostalgic feelings from it, but it's not as quite as warm feeling and colorization of this. This is a Rio Grande game, which are fairly well known for subpar components and artwork. I'm not a huge fan. You can see right here, this is not as readable as something like this. Very much more Hallmarky, Christmassy look that you're going to have. The box for the Rio Grande one is a little bit bigger, as you can see here. That's not tremendously. This is kind of like a Ticket to Ride size normal box, so no issues with that. I'm going to keep, for the purpose of this, the first edition on your left and Santa's Workshop second edition on your right, so you can kind of see the differences. Neither one has much of an insert. I've kind of bagged everything up the best that I can here to kind of have some differences. You're going to see right off the bat, I'm not going to go through everything. You can see that you're going to have a little felt bag here. You're going to have a little Santa's. This is going to hold the cards as you're going through. Now, these packages right here, I've added these from the dollar store. But you can see that, for the most part, you're going to have some meeples and things that will come through here. Those are fairly common as you're going to go through. In the first edition, you're just going to have generic cubes for a lot of this stuff. In this version, you're going to have components that actually look like it. So there's the coals, which are little gems. In here, you have little pieces that are brown like wood. You're going to have these little metallic pieces that kind of look like Legos almost, right? So those are going to be there. They're chits. And that's going to replace the more generic cubes that you would have in that edition. Now, I think that this edition right here is completely upgraded. The second edition's been upgraded in component value. There are some people who just like the nostalgia of this one, but I think it's this nostalgia. You're used to this. I can't see any terminal way that this one is better. Now, maybe that's just me and my preferences, but you can see here the little picture of the item you would get, and kind of everything is broken down. It has a little chart here because this one you utilize plastic where this one does not. But you can see the victory points, the picture of the item, and what you would need to build it down here. This one just seems cleaner to me. I just like the way this one looks better. And this is, a Rio Grande game. Maybe it's a matter of preference, but the second edition, I feel like the components are just much nicer. Here's the main board for the second edition. You're going to see be very different than the first edition, which I'm just going to show you. The gameplay there are some subtle differences. You're going to see a Christmas tree in the center here and different locations you can go to. You no longer have to have the differentiation here. You can see it's printed right here on the side. Now, this game is going to be what they would call the advanced game, or what I would call the standard game, the actual game that you would play. And then there's a family side that maybe you'd want to play with younger children. This is not going to be available in the first edition of the game. The first edition of the game, which is this board, is just going to have the other side of this. But this will give you a little family edition that's a little bit easier for kids. The reindeer are no longer different. You don't have to worry about the Christmas tree going on here. Your elves will not be upgraded. There's no place to go get coal. You just kind of be able to just go to these slots and get the items that you need. So a little bit easier in here, and a little bit easier on getting the tools and stuff you would go. As for the presents, they pretty much work the same, except you have a catch-all position there. Now, the first edition board is much larger. As you can see, it doesn't necessarily all fit on here in the zooming that I'm trying to do. You have a place where the reindeer will get. You'll put cookies on this, and it'll give you different stuff depending on when you go. I feel this has a much darker, less vibrant feel to it. This will be where you put the Santa cards. That hasn't been changed a whole lot. This place right here is the place that always agitated us, where you get tools. It wasn't easy enough to get tools. You can see the track around it has different things on them compared to this. I actually probably like this track because it's a little bit more colorful in the first edition more than the second edition, but that's not a reason to get a game to me. There is a location outside to get coal, and it feels like it's off the way of the board. With most of the production of the items and getting the materials is here, you have coal way over there, and that was always kind of a bad design to me. This down here is where you upgrade your workers. In the new edition, you don't have to go to a location. You will upgrade automatically. It's not an extra spot. And then you'll have your production and what you have up here. But this is much more of a table hog for the first edition. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the more subtle differences in the game. And the first one you're going to see is the elves. So in the simpler game, you're going to have this side where you don't have the upgrades, etc. But on this side, you will. Instead of the Christmas tree in the center of the board for the advanced game, you have your own individualized that you're going to be utilizing over here. Much simpler. But if you wanted to use the advanced game, which we are comparing here, you can see the upgrades would be a little different. Now, on this version, the first edition, there was a spot on the board that I showed you that you would go to upgrade your guys here. In the second edition, that is not the case. In the second edition, you simply would go here and you can play an extra coal to upgrade your elf, and that would be able the upgrades that you would have, where in the first edition it was literally a spot on the board that you had to go to. That is going to be one of the subtle differences of these two editions. Here is the location in the first edition that you would go to. You'd literally put a worker down on the spots, then you could take one of the upgrade tokens. So a little bit more complicated, an extra worker placement spot that you would have in the first edition, where in the second edition you do not have to take that jump. In the first edition of the game, you would go here and you have worker placement spots that you would pick, and you could choose which of these reindeers that you wanted to give, each one giving you a different power, either coal or materials. Maybe they give you a card, first player, or an extra worker that you can use for the round, or some tools that you can use to build. And this was a good spot to go to because this tool location would often be full, and it kind of had a bottleneck when we were playing it. We did not like this part of the first version of the game. We actually had to house roll to get to work, but this would be a spot where you would go to Blitzen to pick that up. In the second edition of the game, you're going to have this location up here to get the reindeers, and you will have different reindeer that will come out on the board, and you'll be able to utilize these cards. Each one will have a different cost. They will have different abilities they would give you, and you have kind of a set collection that you wanted different ones. So you didn't want 3 Donners. You wanted to try to get one of each of Santa's reindeer, and that would give you victory points. So a little bit different of a spot and a little bit more going on there. In the simpler version of the game, which is the other side of the board, you're going to get extra items when you go there. You can choose based on when you go, and you'll use these reindeer cards that don't have any unique power on them. Once again, you're still trying to do the set collection of it. These cards just won't have any powers on them like the other ones do. So it's a completely different set of these reindeer cards that you will utilize for this section if you wanted to play the simpler version. Remember, the simpler version is not included in the first edition. In the first edition of the game, you also had this ability here to make tools. And the tools could only be processed once you had all of the items for a toy you were going to make. Then you could go and do the toys, which created a huge bottleneck. In fact, I hated this so much and felt the game was broken with it that we just said you could go there whenever you wanted and utilize this, and there was no worker placement spot. It was just a catch-all, and it took some of the feeling out of the game or some of the restraint, but we were playing with families, and I just felt like this didn't work at all, which I ended up being vindicated because they're going to change it in the second edition. In the second edition, when you are sampling here in the simple game, or in the advanced game, where if you're the first one to go here, you get a blueprint. The second person would get a blueprint. But if you win a second one, it's fine. You can go there, but whoever's in the first spot will get 3 victory points. And then a catch-all where everybody can go there and get 1. But if you take an extra one, the first player will get 3. And if you take another one, or a third one, whoever's in second place will get 2 victory points. So you're helping other people as you get those blueprints. So in this version of the game, you no longer have to do the tools last. Once you have a toy completed, you can go ahead and score it. So once you have all of the items that you would have here, you can go ahead and score the victory points on it and be on your way without having to be bottlenecked in that assembly hall. In this version, which is not going to be in the first one, you're going to be putting items onto the tree and getting these little goodies. This will allow you to first player, and this will allow you to have 1 extra victory point if you take that spot. What this is going to do, so in the first edition, you would have every 3 rounds, you would see who completed the most cards to Santa, toys, and then you would score based on that. In this version, you're going to do the same thing. You can see the little tracker up here, except for you're going to add this to anything that you put on the Christmas tree, the ornaments. Now, these are going to go into Santa's sleigh at the end of the round, but the ornaments that you put out will continue to score each time. So maybe more clear. In the first edition, you will only score who did the most of these, which will help you with the smaller ones that are quicker to make. In the second edition, you still do the same thing, but anything on the ornament tree, which is a spot you can go to here, will be added to this to see who had the most. These are only scored one time in one of these scoring rounds, where the ornament trees will stay and you will score those each time. So those can be an ongoing place for you. So those are just a quick overview of Santa's Workshop. You have the first edition and the second edition. I like the second edition so much better. Not only do I like the warm feeling of the artwork, I do really like the improvements that they do. I honestly felt like this was an uglier game, but I was willing to forgive it for being a Christmas game. But I feel like that assembly hall room broke the game for me, and it kind of brought the game down for me. This edition fixed that, and it has a simpler rule set, has much better components, much better feel to the game, and I feel like they've improved this game tenfold. I would not play this game, and I don't want to put anybody down. If you love this game, play this game. But I feel like a lot of people are playing and sticking to this game because of the nostalgia of it, versus the game being better than this version. This is one of those instances where I feel like this version of the game is so superior to this game, and I actually felt like that assembly hall was broken. You may like a really mean game with your family, one that I felt like didn't work as well, and I think that was universally discussed and upgraded in this version. So without question, this is the version for me to get. This is the version to me to stick with. This also has a wild one that has the plastics in it, where you could use plastics to make it a little easier to make your toys, but it's going to be worth less victory points. I did like that. I did miss losing that, but the assembly hall was a deal breaker to me. Made me not want to play this game as much, and that's completely fixed in here. The plastic thing is completely forgiven, forgotten, and not needed in this version, and this is the superior version without question. If you're going to buy one of these, don't settle for this one. Go with that one.